Hi everyone. Today I wanted to celebrate and share with you some of the joy and excitement that I feel for all of the awesome African women in my life, and in particular all of the ones that make part of the We Will Lead Africa Women Volume 2, which is a collection of stories about and by African women who are everyday leaders and are having exceptional, extraordinary impact across the African continent. In particular, today I want to share a little bit about what I think is unique about African women and the fullness and richness of the lives that they live that is so multifaceted that it defies categorization in many ways. And before we jump into kind of reading from the individual stories of some of our contributors and even having some conversations with some of them in the future episodes of this series, I wanted to leave you on the cliffhanger a little bit longer and give you a broad overview of who some of these awesome women are that made this volume possible. The volume was kind of very natural to come together for me because I feel like I have always collected awesome women at every stage of my life. I've been surrounded by incredible African women, and they show up as, you know, cheerleaders and co-founders and wise mentors and guides and partners and et cetera, et cetera. And so today I really want to express gratitude for all of the incredible African women in my life, and all of the incredible African women that are doing what they do every day. I'm going to start with sharing a little bit about me and about my co-founders and editorial team, because I think it shows just how multifaceted and how much variety there is in the ways in which and the roles that African women play. In fact, the volume 2, is dedicated to, it says at the start of the book, dedicated to the African woman: girl, daughter, sister, friend, mother, grandmother. And that speaks to just some of the kind of relational roles that we play, or roles we play in our families and communities. But it seems that even within our professional lives, or more generally, we wear lots and lots of different hats. And that seemed to be a kind of common theme that we found when we started to collect the stories of African women for this volume. So if I think about myself, I am a organization development practitioner, coach, entrepreneur, storyteller, innovation consultant, to name some of the types of ways I would describe the work that I do, or the life that I live. My co-founders, Yabome and Judith. Yabome is also an OD and leadership consultant. She is a senior leader exec in the health industry, has written several books outside of the We Will Lead Africa volumes, is also a coach and board member, etc., etc. Judith is a business psychologist, knowledge worker, and more recently has founded IMISI, which is a virtual reality lab in Lagos. My co-editors of this volume alongside Yabome, Chenge and Moira. Chenge is a change consultant. She is also working on the We Will Lead Africa team now, and is a specialist in education and transformation. Moira is a professor, researcher, and a specialist in indigenous knowledge systems. right? So I'm saying all of that, but firstly to celebrate them and how incredible they are, but also to demonstrate the kaleidoscope or like different textures of the lives that these women lead and that I lead. And the same was true for all of our contributors. And with that richness comes such joy and such amazing impact, and also lots and lots of challenges, right? Like, it's not always easy to wear lots of different hats. Life is really real. And so I'll start by just reading you this little piece from the beginning of the volume, from the preface, which speaks to that. Curating this volume was challenging. We, the editorial team of this volume, each had personal and professional challenges. We balanced our day jobs, our families, and responsibilities. We navigated pressures, promotions, awards and rewards, illness, loss, opportunities, decisions, and much more. In short, we navigated the fullness and reality of life, yet we continued to move forward, fueled by our desire to share our voice and to lead. This too was part of the process. As we encountered these challenges in the African woman's balancing act of life, we were living out the exact challenges our contributors also experience and give voice to in their stories. And whilst these stories are intended to be a glimpse through the doorway of what is possible, the current reality still emphasizes the need for spaces and places for shining a light on the unique and precious contribution that African women bring to the world. I read that to give you a sense of what the journey was like of the year or year and a half that it took to pull together this volume, and the challenges and ups and downs of that process, and all of the joy also of that journey. And also to point to one of the things which I think is really apparent in all of the stories in this particular volume. All of these African women speak about doing it together. They speak about the power of having a community of other African women around you to support and help pull through and motivate and to keep carrying the baton when you need to rest, right? So I want to lift that up as a gift of African women, is do it together. I also lift it up to really shine a light on the variety in African women's lives. You hear it in us as the editorial team, but it was also true of the women in the stories that we collected. And so I'm going to read to you a very short section here that talks about what it was like once we'd collected all of these stories, what it was like to try and group them together in some kind of a way that helped the reader make sense of them. And I'll read through the different groupings that we finally landed on, also as a way to give you a taster of what stories you can find inside of the volume 2. So, the stories in this volume cover a range of industries and topics for Africa's advancement. Many of the stories cut across multiple sectors. That is someone shouting out in the background because life is real. Many of the stories cut across multiple sectors. How do you categorize leaders running awareness and advocacy platforms who are also artists and entrepreneurs? A novel writer who is also an entrepreneur? Academics who are also mentors and community role models? These stories are multidimensional, cross boundaries, and model how African women and leaders innovate to create platforms to share their gifts with the world. We believe this reflects the complexity of African women's lives. These stories cannot be put in a box, so we offer them in the following groupings only as a guide to the reader. 6 influencers. These women are shaping domestic and international policies and agendas in public sector, gender, agriculture, trade, and information technology. In this section, you will meet Yvonne, Baratang, Seno, Eileen, Nitasha, and Nomusa. 3 health innovators. Here you will meet the sister team, Yasmine and Heba, who are advancing health research and innovation and catch a glimpse of the health advocacy happening on the continent through the stories of Vanessa and Taíla. 6 entrepreneurs and businesswomen. These women are leading the way in business as well as sparking prosperity, opportunities, and innovation. Meet Lynda, Sarah and Tatiana, Iyangule, Sandra, Bezawit, and Wasi. 5 educators. These women span generations, showing that African women have and continue to leave their mark in the African Academy. Meet Stella, Tshepiso, Mbuywana, Audrey, and Tracy. 5 bridge builders. These women are creating platforms to enable and facilitate opportunities and spaces for other women to learn and grow together, support each other, and gain access to opportunities that seem beyond reach. Meet Marcia, Marina, Keboni, Siyabonga, Buyelwa, and Diana. The 7 deconstructors. These leaders cross the arenas of sports, arts, and Pan-Africanism. The stories are about women disrupting status quo narratives for social impact. They are pioneers for change in the fabric and culture of African identities. They are the stories of Marcia, Selma, Elizabeth, Dorothy, Caroline, Lydia, Peace, and Mame. So, we had to group them, but I hope you hear that it was really hard. And not only was it hard, each of the stories, each of the women almost defied categorization. They each had such a span and such a variety within them that it was really quite a difficult exercise to try and give labels to what the stories were about and what these women were about. But I also hope that it gives you a flavor of what you can find inside of the volume, and I hope it excites you as much as it excites us to hear these different women and the ways in which that they are showing up in the world and adding so much value. Lastly, I want to point to the other contributions that weren't stories or narratives direct from an African woman. The entire book, in every way, was led by, produced by, created, curated by, and made up of stories by African women. And so I want to do some little shout outs to some other aspects of the book. The stories are the core of the book, but we also wanted people to engage with the subject matter of imagining a world where African women's contribution is really valued, and so we have a beginning and an end that are slightly different to just the stories. So at the start we have the preface, and we have the short letter, My Dear Child, which I read from last time, and we also have a beautiful poem called Steel Magnolia by Oni Aningo. At the other end, in the closing, apart from the closing reflections from the editorial team, we have, for those of you who are more spiritual and who think about other ways in which we might know stuff, we have a response from Mother Earth, which is words directly from Mother Earth and the messages that she has for us. And then we have a science fiction story which looks into the future called The History of Her, which is written by Cheryl Ntumy. And finally, the beautiful cover is a mashup of pictures, photographs taken by Elizabeth, who's one of the contributors, and also the design, the layout, and the graphics of it was created by Dr. Romy, who is also an incredible kaleidoscope of things. She's a doctor, as in a medical doctor, a creative designer, researcher, and the two together created this beautiful cover for the volume. So that's it for today. I hope it gave you a flavor of how much it is to be an African woman, and how much African women bring in so many different spheres and wearing so many different hats, and that there is so much to celebrate. That's all I've got for today. Be well.